All right, we're going to get started here. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Welcome, Thomas. Welcome, Anita. Happy 4th of July. Kind of surprised to see 2 people in here. It's nice. I was debating on whether having the lecture today, but unfortunately with my schedule, I had to keep it the same. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for a couple hours here. How is everybody today? Good. All right. Any questions from week 1 before we get started here? Okay, great. All right, well, welcome to week 2, live lecture 1. I'm going to get started here, just kind of go through a couple things, announcements. And this is week 2, so just make sure you're hitting the deadlines. Very important with this class because you're going to be building upon your assignments here. So all week 2 work needs to be submitted by Saturday before midnight, Mountain Standard Time. And discussion post, your initial post needs to be posted by Wednesday before midnight. So that is today. So make sure you're getting that in before midnight tonight, before the fireworks go off. And, you know, if you have not submitted your work from week 1, make sure you're doing so. You'll have a grace period of a week with a 20% deduction for the late penalty, but at least you're getting some points in there. So definitely, you know, submit that. All right. So last time that we met, week 1, live lecture 2, I believe it was Tuesday of last week, we talked about brand persuasion and rhetoric. We had a little quiz of what we went over in the actual first live lecture. We looked at examples of ads that fail. We also went over your assessment 1 review, and then we did a assignment 1. Well, we really didn't do a critique because we didn't have too many people in here, but we actually looked at, kind of reviewed a little bit on assignment 1 for the second lecture. All right, today for week 2, a little overview. This week you will begin to develop one of your visual elements of your brand identity, the logo. So you're going to be creating a logo this week. And as we go forward with this lecture, we're going to talk about, kind of do a little overview of your discussion first for what's expected of you for discussion 2. See if you have any questions. We're going to review about what makes a logo work, because you will be developing a logo for this week. We're going to look at some logo design tips for you guys to get started, and then we'll go right into the assignment 2 overview and demo. That will probably continue into tomorrow's lecture, so you know, we'll see kind of where we go as much time as we have for this lecture. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at discussion 2. See if you have any questions. A lot of you guys are posting to the discussion so far, so it's good to see you guys are being pretty proactive there. Let's go into week 2 first. Just learning objectives that we're going to be walking away from this week. We're going to be discussing the differences between brand identity and logo identity. Identify the personality of a company and integrate it to a brand strategy that differentiates it from its competition. Explain a rationale for a concept direction in promoting appropriate marketing materials. Develop and apply content strategy utilizing 3 creative process methods to establish an advertising program for corporate identity. Define and apply 5 critical thinking skills to determine a viable corporate identity, and discuss key elements from a case study showing a successful brand identity. A lot of stuff going on this week. This is kind of what you'll be walking away from learning from week 2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this video here real quick. Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to show you my awesome new website. It's got everything I love all in one place. All right, sorry about the double noise there. I'm not sure what happened. I think I had both videos playing at the same time, and that's why it was so noisy. Pretty interesting to see the evolution of some of those very recognizable brands. And, you know, it's just really cool to see the trends and like how the direction of the brands go. And that's the key to having a recognizable, effective brand, is having that logo, you know, be not too far off from the original each time it's evolved into the future. So it's keeping some type of similarity, but just kind of polishing up certain aspects of it, you know, making it cleaner, more simplified. So very interesting for sure. All right. And we can learn a lot from seeing that, just knowing that a logo needs to be flexible enough to be able to be revised and updated, you know, 5, 10 plus years. If it's not flexible enough, then obviously there's going to be, you know, it's going to fail in some regards. So, all right, so we're going to talk about rebranding the brand. You're going to read through the discussion background here. I won't read that word for word. Just go ahead and read through that. Gives you kind of some background before starting your discussion. I will read the prompt, since this is what you guys need to be doing for this discussion. So for this discussion, you will discuss key elements from a case study showing a successful brand identity. As with any design project, you must begin with a clear picture of who the client is, and a case study will allow the designer to get to know the customer. You're going to visit the website Rebrand or the branding journal and select one case study and make that company the subject of this discussion. You're going to research to gain a better understanding of process and development of the rebranding project. So you might look up, you know, design methodology, or, you know, and or design process, so that you can supplement your initial post with that. Download one image representing your case study or share a link to it and post with the comments that address the following. How did the creative team identify the design challenge and provide a solution to help the company meet their goals? So what was the problem? What were they trying to solve? And what was the solution to help their goals, the company meet their goals? How does the rebrand better connect to the target audience? You know, maybe there was a disconnect. Maybe the typeface didn't really quite, you know, wasn't appropriate for the target audience. Maybe the color was not quite appropriate enough. Or maybe it was, it just wasn't, you know, fresh and new looking. Or, you know, maybe there's something about it that, you know, didn't quite connect with the target audience as the newer one did. So explain your rationale for your answer. Explain those details. Talk about typeface, talk about color, shape. Does it look old? Is it simple? Is it versatile? Do you think it's memorable? You know, is it appropriate? Think about all those things whenever you're answering this. And don't forget, for your citation, you might research the elements of a successful branding strategy to assist with your case study. And this is kind of just the extra instructions on how to embed to your post. So these are the links that you'll click on just to kind of peruse through. Oh, okay, this one's not found. Interesting. You might be able to go to one of these links though. Hold on one second. I'll have to peruse through there. I thought I clicked on that and it worked. So let me click on this one. So we have a bum link there. Okay, this one works. Okay. What is this one called? Rebrand. Okay, let's do a Google search for that. I might be able to quickly fix this here. Sometimes websites just stop working too, depending on the actual company here. Let's see, rebrand.com. Yeah, it looks like I'm not going to be able to get the link here. Okay, I'll have to do some searching before I do that. All right, so I'll try to fix that. In the meantime, just go with this link for now and go through each of these case studies, or one that kind of pops out at you here. Here's one. I think some of you guys were talking about this in the discussions already. So some great points being brought up about this. So you can read through all of this, see what the new packaging, logo, brand looks like, see the before and after, and then start talking about it. And be very specific, you know, talk about, you know, the elements of design that you're seeing, what works, what doesn't work, you know, compare and contrast. Airbnb, there's another page here. Any questions about that? Some interesting ones in there for sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that link doesn't work. I'm going to check that out. But what's nice about that is you get to see the before and after, really kind of explain and examine how they shifted their rebrand for the target audience, you know, so that it works better for the overall target audience. So then you start thinking about your own projects coming up. How can you align yours better with the target audience? So this kind of gets you start thinking about all that stuff. Okay, so no questions, right? We're good with that. You guys are so quiet. All right, so let's talk about what makes a logo work, because, you know, we just think, oh, it's just a logo. As long as I can read, it's good. But there's actually, you know, a science behind this. You know, logos, I think, and I always say this, and I've heard it from other professors in my past, that a logo, if you are a good logo designer or you design a good, effective logo, then you pretty much made it as a designer, because they are one of the hardest things that you can do as a designer to do effectively design. And you would think that that would be the opposite, because it's like, you know, such a simple thing. But because it's so simple and because it is the face of a company, it's really challenging to try to come up with something simple yet unique, kind of ride that line where you're not making it boring looking, but making it unique so that it's memorable and effective in that way. So without putting too much in it, you know, it's like we always want to put so much into it. But that's, you know, it's one of the most challenging things I think a designer can do. So let's take a look at the 5 characteristics on what makes a logo work. And what I want you to do is remember these characteristics when you start designing the logo for this project. Remember these 5 characteristics, write it down, to take a screenshot of them, and then cross-check your work based on these 5 characteristics. And that's pretty much how I'm grading you guys too. So what is a logo? The logo identifies a business or product in its simplest form. It's kind of like the mask behind the actual brand. What makes a logo work? What do you guys think? You have any ideas? Maybe you guys can guess on what the 5 characteristics are. You can type in the chat there if you can think of what you think would make a logo work effectively. Take a stab at it. Simplicity, very good. So simple, that's one of them. Yep. I kind of said a few of the characteristics already, so let's see if you're paying attention. Simple. You know, it's kind of like, it's the 4th of July. People, you don't need to think on the 4th of July, right? Just kind of sit here and listen. So I'll help you out a little bit. All right, so simple was the first one. Good job, Anita. So it has to be simple, it has to be memorable, timeless, versatile, and appropriate. These are the 5 characteristics that makes a logo work. It has to be simple, yet not boring. right? Because if it's boring, it won't be memorable. So you have to make it so simple yet have some type of memorable quality about it so that it is memorable and people just don't pass it by and don't remember it. Has to be timeless. You know, 5, 10 plus years from now, it's kind of like that little black dress in your closet, girls. You know, we kind of have that. Well, you might have that. I know I have a couple dresses in the closet that you can wear 5, 10, 15 years, you know, as long as you fit in it, over and over again. And it looks nice. It doesn't look old, doesn't look dated. And that's kind of what we're talking about in regards to logos. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be exactly the same, but it has to be flexible enough to evolve, but still kind of be timeless. So versatile, you know, it has to be versatile in regards to, and I always like to say, you know, a logo needs to be cohesive enough. If it's etched in metal or burned in wood, it's going to look like the same as the original logo. So think about that. So if it has like a lot of gradients and like a lot of filters done to it, it's probably not going to read very well in those aspects. So don't just think of a logo being applied, you know, on a piece of paper or a website. There's multiple applications to placing your logo on clothing, different materials, and not just, you know, different materials, but different orientations as well. So it has to be versatile. It has to work, you know, in smaller places. Maybe you have 2 different types of logo orientations. Maybe one's more vertical in size and one is more horizontal, but they're very cohesive looking. So that's what versatile means. And then appropriate means the color is appropriate for it. You wouldn't want to use a hot pink color for a funeral home logo, for example. It has to be appropriate, and that goes for the typeface too. You know, you wouldn't use a swirly, youthful looking typeface for a funeral home logo as well. So, you know, it has to be appropriate, and that's kind of where your research and development, you get that information so that you're not haphazardly designing a logo just on what you think looks good, because it's not about what you think. It's really what's right for the company, the brand, and who you're speaking to in terms of the target audience. All right, so I want you to use those 5 characteristics to think about when you're designing your logo, and also cross-check your work. You know, tell yourself, ask yourself, is this logo simple yet memorable? Is it versatile? Will it work on a darker background? Will it work on a lighter background? Will it work in different orientations? Will it be flexible enough to evolve in the future? Timeless. Is it timeless? Is it appropriate? You know, so think about those things. All right, so now that we went over the 5 characteristics, which are really important, let's take a look at some logo design tips. So here are some great tips to follow before starting your assignment. So learn Logo 101. And again, the 5 characteristics are shown here. So it has to be simple, it has to be memorable, it has to be enduring, so timeless, versatile, and appropriate. A lot of the logos that you see on the slide are definitely recognizable. They're very simple, they're memorable, they're lasting, and they're appropriate for the actual brands that they're displaying there. Number 2, establish your own design process. You know, a lot of people can skip ahead and not do a process and come up with a beautiful, aesthetically beautiful looking logo. But it's probably going to fail because you didn't put the time and the work necessary before designing the logo to really understand who that brand, what the brand's all about, what they're trying to do and say to their target audience, who the target audience is that they're speaking to. So yeah, you can make a really nice looking, you know, logo, but it's probably not going to be effective and lasting. Going through your process steps is what's really important because you're coming up with more effective solutions. So you have the design brief, pretty much is what you're getting right now when we talk about your assignment 2. So when you meet with a client, they'll kind of give you the lowdown of what they need, maybe some background information, you know, what it is they're trying to solve, what problems they're trying to solve, what they want for the end product. So that all goes in the design brief. That's really important. That's kind of where you're gathering the information. You're getting like knowing who their competitors are. Research is the next step. And in research, you can also look at who their competitors are and gather this information. But you're researching who this brand is. You're immersing yourself into who they are so that you can effectively, design something for them. You're understanding who the target audience is too, because you're speaking to that particular target audience. The target audience is the range of people who are going to definitely buy into that brand. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be excluding anybody else, but that's who you're going to target. That's who you're speaking to. Okay, and then you're going to go into reference. So you're just kind of referencing your information, sketching and conceptualizing. This is where the thumbnail process comes into play. So you're brainstorming. You can do thumbnails, you can do adjective lists, mind maps, all that good stuff. And everybody's process is different. It's not like you have to go in this linear fashion either. You can kind of go back and forth and jump around once you go through the first few steps. And your brainstorming might be different too. You might do different sketches than somebody else. You might be not doing mind maps, but maybe adjective lists. You might go take a walk, to take a break to really kind of brainstorm. That might be your process. There is a process that we all should go through, though, to come up with more effective solutions. So, kind of trying different brainstorming methods is really important. And there's all kinds of different things. There's crazy ideas. It's called crazy ideas, where you actually just write down really crazy ideas. Like, what if the logo was a person? What would they look like? Stuff like that. And you can come up with really cool ideas. Like if you're, you think it's crazy, but you're writing this down and you're like, oh, I have an idea because it stemmed from this crazy idea. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use it, but you kind of maybe didn't think about something that this sparked. So, and that's what mind maps do too, and adjective lists. And then we go into the reflection. So you're kind of just reflecting upon what works, what doesn't work. You're talking to the client, getting feedback from them. Maybe you're collaboratively brainstorming with other designers or people that you're getting that feedback and reflecting upon it. Presentation is kind of like a launch. So it would be kind of like, if you're doing a website, you're launching that website or printing that piece, you're presenting it. That's the final process step. But then not really, because then you're reflecting again afterwards to see what worked and what didn't work, hopefully. So, yours might not be this linear, but these are some of the process steps that, you should be definitely doing. And it does seem like a long process, but when after a while, after you do these process steps over and over again, you start streamlining, the way that you do it. So you become quicker and faster at the whole process, design process, so that, you might be doing some things in your head and quickly jotting things down instead. So it might not take you as long. Number 3, learn from others. By knowing what other brands have succeeded in and why they have succeeded gives you great insight, and you can apply that attendant knowledge to your own work. So knowing what works and being inspired by that is super important, because, obviously, if we're not looking at inspirational logos or brands, we might be kind of aligning ours in a different way that might not work. So we have kind of like something to measure our work off of, not necessarily copy, but, say, hey, this is working. These people are successful. This brand is successful. Why is it successful? Look at their logo. Very simple. I need something that looks like this, yet different. So, that's super important to kind of compare and contrast. Number 4, avoid the cliches. What's that mean? It's like what you typically see out there, right? So how is your design going to be unique when so many other logos feature the same idea? Think about that. How can you, that's the challenge. That's the design challenge. How can you make yours a little different, yet align it to being the same, kind of the trends and how it looks? Steer clear of these visual cliches and come up with an original idea and design. Now, I would say these aren't really cliches, but I would say, let's see here. Let me see if I can actually find some cliches online. Probably should have put some examples on there and I didn't. Let's see. Like the swoosh, for instance, is a big cliche. Here, let me see if I can find some examples. Okay, so this is a good example to show you guys because this is very cliche. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't work. It worked at one point, but because it's out there and there's so many out there like this, it becomes cliche, it becomes overdone. So what we're talking about is the, okay, these 13 most common logo design cliches. So the light bulb. So an idea, of course, you know, so you want to kind of avoid that. If you have some type of brand that you might think of using a light bulb in, you might want to rethink it. Even though they look kind of unique here, you might want to rethink that. The globe is used a lot. A lot of like corporate firms use that depending on what, whoops, what they're all about. There's some more here. The arc, just don't. So look at all these arced logos here. The handshake, the puzzle. So, I mean, some of them do look good, but because they're so overdone, it becomes not as recognizable, not as memorable. Pixels. So you want to steer clear of using any of this. The tree. Rooftops. All these rooftops. The circle vector. The gear. The stylized car. Acronym inboxes. Financial graphics. So those are some good ones for sure. And some of those you might be like, yeah, those are really nice, but because they're so overdone in so many ways using typical elements, it becomes cliche. And when it becomes cliche, it becomes what? Not memorable, right? Research your audience, number 5. So really, really, really important. Involving the client at this early stage is advised, as your interpretation of their brand may be different from theirs, and it's essential that the message is clear before any actual designing takes place. So, you know, obviously you don't want to go from meeting your client to right on the computer. You want to basically research your audience. You want to know who this audience is. You need to ask the client, you know, tell me about your target audience, who you're speaking to. You might even, if you have the chance and you say, for instance, you're designing for a church or someplace that you can actually go into the actual brand itself and be the target audience, kind of immerse yourself into that. That's perfect. You might be the target audience for something that you find yourself designing for. That'd be perfect. But if you're not, you know, you don't really know who the target audience is, so you need to get that information. And immerse yourself into the brand. So before even beginning to sketch out ideas for a logo design, spend some time compiling about your client's brand. Who are they? What do they do? And what their demographic is. So really kind of research that. Who the competitors are. Super important so that you're aligning your brand appropriately so they're not looking the same. They're differentiated and hopefully looking a little bit more memorable for sure. Keep all your sketches. I find myself in past experiences throwing out that first, second sketch that I did and then I realized, wait a second, I had a really good idea on that piece of paper. So never throw away these early ideas. They form a valuable resource. You might not go back to them for a while, but if you need to go back to the drawing board after maybe creating some rough drafts, and then you think, oh, I should have went back to that first idea that I had. You want to make sure that it's going to be there and see your process all through those steps. So you're not missing out on anything. Do your online research. So 2 great starting points for online logo design research are And these are older ones. So Logo Moose and Logo Gala, go ahead on some of those sites. I'll give you some examples of what's trending. If you can actually type in a keyword. So let's say you're looking up like a bakery logo. So let me type in this website here. You guys can't see this, but give me 1 second. Okay, so Logo Moose, I'll show you here real quick, is one of the sites. And it's an inspirational site. So you can actually, type in a keyword here, say like bakery, and this comes up with some interesting bakery logos that you can be inspired by. This is very similar to this is not similar to Pinterest, but you can definitely do Pinterest too. But this is strictly just, for logos. So, if you want to check that out too before doing your research, that would be good. So kind of getting inspired by what you see. Maybe it's a typeface that you like, that you think would work, maybe the overall shape or the style, the overall color. You're kind of grabbing that inspiration from other places. Fight the temptation to imitate. You're kind of looking at all of those logos, but you don't really want to imitate that. So ask yourself whether the style you're using is appropriate for the client needs. Make sure you're not just doing it because you think it looks cool. There has to be a rationale behind it. You're designing for your clients, not yourself. So I think that's one of the things you have to kind of keep in mind. So when you're looking at other logos, don't copy exactly what they have. You're going to have copyright issues if that's the case. Another rule is number 10, create vectors. So the best way to save any pain and frustration with later iterations of your logo is to produce it using vectors. So vectors are a vector program, for example, would be Illustrator. There's other vector programs too, but that's one of them. And they basically kind of run off of mathematical equations, points, lines to create graphics rather than pixels, being pixel dependent like Photoshop. So you can blow it up to X amount size, beyond billboard and beyond that, and it still will be very, very sharp. You won't have any issues with pixelization or being blurry. So that's why we want to do all of our logo design work in a vector-based program like Illustrator. Choose your typeface carefully. Really important. Typeface is, I think, sometimes overlooked by a lot of students. So there's just so much history with a lot of the typefaces that you might not realize that you're using a certain typeface, that the connotations might not be right for that brand. And you might not realize it. So knowing what that typeface is about, do your research, get the connotations from it. How is it used in the past? What are the characteristics of it? Not just how it looks, because sometimes we can say, oh, that looks really good. I think that looks cool. You need to know the history behind it. Typography, you could probably take like 3 years of typography classes because there's so much involved in it. So, just kind of know that certain typefaces have really strong connotations that might carry through, maybe not in the best way with your brand. So you have to make sure you choose it appropriately. Number 12, use negative space effectively. You don't necessarily always have to have, this type of a thing going on, but, definitely keep this in mind. Some of the best logo designs have hidden meanings in their negative space. That X and the E and the X is that little arrow. So there's a lot of other, let me show you another one here. I think it's kind of cool. That actually I didn't notice it until later on. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I should have seen it, but when I found out later what it was very memorable to me. So see if you guys can see this here. if you guys can see that. So in that tree, do you see anything in there? I probably gave it away by showing you the other logos here. Kind of squint your eyes. See some fish, yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you see anything else in there?
A squirrel?
I don't know. Is there a squirrel? Maybe I missed it. A gorilla. Yep. The gorilla on the left side. And what's on the right side?
A tiger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's kind of another one to show you how, kind of filling it in here. Yep.
Oh, it's the zoo logo.
Mm-hmm. So they're kind of filling in the gaps here, but this is the actual logo. Pretty cool, huh? So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's pretty memorable. I never noticed that before. So think about that if you can utilize that in some way in your logos. That definitely becomes a more memorable logo. It's so simple too. Definitely takes some thought behind that. All right, number 13, don't overdo it. I can't emphasize this enough, especially with students. And believe me, I've been in your shoes. I've overdid everything. And that's just part of the process. You know, we kind of think we have to cram all this stuff in here and then make it so detailed. But don't add shapes and pictorial elements in negative space just because you can. Keep it simple, you know, kind of edit it down. I'll probably be I most likely will be telling at least one or two of you, maybe more, hopefully not, edit it down to its simplest forms. Now, that's where the design challenge is too, because you don't want it too simple. We want to be memorable yet simple. So that is definitely the challenge, but don't try to cram all kinds of details in there. Number 14, don't use more than 2 fonts. Restricting yourself to just 1 or 2 typefaces, this is a good idea if you want your logo design to be clear and uncluttered. When you use too many fonts, it becomes very disconnected. It's not cohesive anymore. It becomes confusing. So you want it to be cohesive. Number 15, ensure it works on dark backgrounds. So that's key, and you might need to change some of your letter colors, and that's fine, just as long as it stays the same in regards to the overall look of the logo. Just the color, maybe the type will change to white or a lighter color. So make sure your logo is versatile as well. All right, any questions about what we just went over? Okay, just a little review there. Nope. All right. I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute break here, and then we'll go through your assignment 2. We'll read through that. I'll kind of start you guys on track with that. Do a little demo, and then we might continue that on for tomorrow. We'll kind of see where we end here, but I'll give you a heads up. All right. So 5 minutes. I'll meet you guys back here. All right, can you guys hear me? Oops. All right, cool. All right, guys, so let's take a look at your second assignment here. I'm gonna bring this up on my screen so we can take a look at this. Did anybody get started with this yet? Probably not, huh? Since you're in the lecture now, but maybe you did. Maybe you got started reading it at least. All right, so basically what we're going to be doing is, kind of going through your process steps. So read through the background here. We're going to have you guys go through some of these process steps for this assignment. I'm going to go right to the prompt. So read through the background first. I'm going to go straight to the prompt. Once you have done your research, you can get on to the fun part of logo design process. Designing a logo is your opportunity to develop a concept that is appropriate, simple in form, and conveys the right message for your client. For this assignment, you will create a logo for your chosen campaign. Choose your client from one of these 3 clients listed below, beginning with sketching thumbnails. Once you have decided on the 3 strongest concepts, you will start designing digitally. To make sure you are focusing on the actual core concepts of the logo, the font, the shapes, and the design, avoid applying color to the logo during this stage of the design process. Okay, so basically you're going to be choosing one of those from the list. So 1 is the Sweet Sensations Bakery, 2 is Red River All Natural Dog Food, and 3 is the Roasted Bean Coffee Company. So choose one that you think you're, obviously more connected to, more interested in, because then you'll have better results, I believe. Download the PDF here, and I'll show you this in a second. And this kind of gives you a little bit of the very, very short brief about each of these companies, so you kind of get started with your research and your process steps. So we'll click on that in a minute here. Assignment instructions, you're going to have create 20 thumbnail sketches. And I'll show you some examples in the slides here in a second. Because the focus is on idea generation, this phase encourages the exploration of all ideas. Dig deep, create thumbnails until all the good ideas have been exhausted, and then go further to explore great ideas. So you can even start with just simple shapes, lines, stuff like that, and get it a little bit more detailed. Choose one promising concept from your thumbnail sketches and create 3 different black and white logo designs using Adobe Illustrator. Try out alternative typographic approaches, various compositional layouts, and a variety of options that will make each logo different and unique. So you're going to kind of pull one concept that you think has the most potential out of those 20 thumbnail sketches. And then you're going to create 3 different logos from that are black and white. Create a new document size, so 4 inches by 4 inches with 3 artboards. Design 3 unique black and white concepts. Place each unique concept on a separate artboard. You're going to name your file as such below as a PDF, and you're going to submit the 20 thumbnail sketches along with the 3 logo designs as a single PDF for grading. So you're going to combine them all. Note, thumbnails, this is a good note here. Thumbnails can be scanned, photographed with the camera on your smartphone or using a program called Photo Booth on your computer. And then you just kind of save it out as a PDF to combine them together. All right, any questions? I'm going to click on this PDF here. We'll take a look at this. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm assuming not. So this is the 3 choices that you have. And what it is just they're going to give you a little run through of what the company's about, and then they're going to give you some brand keywords. These brand keywords will definitely help you with your process steps going forward in your initial process. So the first one's Sweet Sensations Bakery. Sweet Sensations Bakery is a new gourmet Cookie and Cupcake Company. They are located in Wichita, Kansas, and strive to bring custom one-of-a-kind cookies and cupcakes that you won't find in local pastry shops to the local grocery stores and coffee shops in the city. Their emphasis is on handmade and homemade, fresh, indulgent ingredients and a low price that everyone can afford. Sweet Sensations Bakery was created with the vision of embracing a bursting sensation of flavor in every bite. So Sweet Sensations is looking for a logo that is rustic and homemade in feel. They want their logo to be casual, friendly, and approachable. Their preferred color palettes, blues, browns, yellows, and purples, but they're open to new ideas. Keywords: handmade, fresh, unique, and rustic. So you can take those keywords, and actually those are all adjective words, and you can create a logo, just some ideas of sketches of what would it look like if it looked homemade or fresh. Think about typefaces that look fresh and homemade. Think about colors that look fresh, homemade, unique, rustic. So this is kind of how you should be paralleling the keywords with a lot of the elements that you choose. Red River All Natural Dog Food. Red River is a premium all natural dog food located in Boise, Idaho. Every Red River dog food variety incorporates elements from the 5 food groups: meat, dairy, vegetables, fruit, and grain, plus essential fats and oils to deliver supreme nutrition for the overall health of your dog. Red River is looking for a logo that feels natural yet is also warm and inviting. They do not want anything that is too casual because they have a robust amount of scientific developments behind their food. Their preferred color palette is earth tones, including browns, reds, yellows, and greens. Brand keywords: all natural, organic, balanced, scientific, and modern. So that's a tricky one because you have two kind of opposite words here, one being all natural and organic, and another word being scientific. So there's ways that you can show that, both of those sides, but that would be definitely the challenge there, kind of showing both of those. The Roasted Bean Coffee Company is the last brand that you can choose from. The Roasted Bean Coffee Company is a coffee roasting company driven by philosophy, encompassed by community, and expressed through quality. Located in Chicago, the Roasted Bean Coffee Company is both a coffee roasting company and a small cafe for community to be formed and enriched. All their beans have been meticulously sourced and are environmentally responsible. The Roasted Bean is looking for a logo that blends urban street style and a comic book graffiti look. So that's pretty specific. The Roasted Bean is a revolution in the coffee world of Chicago and wants their logo to reflect that sense of strength and unexpected power. Their preferred color palette is all colors that are bright, strong, and unexpected. Their keywords are philanthropic, community-centric, urban, and revolutionary. So 3 different types of brands that you have to choose from. So pick one that you think you will definitely be connected to a little bit better. Maybe you're a coffee person and you want to kind of challenge yourself in that regards. Maybe you're a dog person that you want to kind of take a stab at it. And I think everybody's pretty much a sweet person, right? Everybody likes bakery stuff for the most part. So that's an easy one too. So pick one that kind of connects to you a little bit. If you can't decide, you might want to do some thumbnail sketches for, say, if you're kind of torn between the coffee company and the sweets company. You might want to do a couple thumbnails for each and see which one you think is kind of going better in regards to your design process, and then you kind of go towards that one, the one that you think has more potential. Okay, any questions about this? Okay. Take a drink here. Okay. So let's go through the steps here, kind of thinking about what we just talked about, what you should do in regards to your design steps and how you should follow through. So let's go through those steps. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose one of the 3. And then you're going to look at each of their descriptions like we talked about. You might even want to, kind of screen capture the one that you're going to do. Once you choose that, you're going to get started to your design processes. So let's get started. So let's focus on the sweet sensations for just basically this demo so that we can at least, kind of focus on one for now. Here is, again, the description. So it tells you that they are a new gourmet cookie and cupcake company. So right there is a lot of information. So they're new. They don't have an old logo to go off of. They are located in Wichita, Kansas, and strive to bring custom, one-of-a-kind cookies and cupcakes that you won't find in local pastry shops. So maybe it's more of a boutique type thing, to the local grocery stores and coffee shops in the city. So basically right there, they're kind of telling you that a lot of their sweets are found in the local grocery store and coffee shops in the city. Their emphasis is on handmade. Okay, it's shown there twice. Handmade, fresh, indulgent ingredients. So handmade and homemade, sorry. I saw that as being the same word. Handmade and homemade, fresh, indulgent ingredients, and a low price that everyone can afford. Sweet Sensations Bakery was created with the vision of embracing a bursting sensation of flavor in every bite. And I think the challenge here is showing the bursting flavor in every bite, but then still having the homemade, fresh, rustic look of it, because you don't really want to do too much of a pop of color. I mean, you don't want to do the whole thing in like bright colors because you want it to look rustic. So you might have a pop of color is what I was talking about. Sweet Sensation is looking for a logo that is rustic and handmade in feel. They want their logo to be casual, friendly, and approachable, so not too uppity. Their preferred color is blues, browns, yellows, purples, but they're open to new ideas. So thinking about that, that's all the information that I have to go off of. So what's the first step in approaching this assignment? What do you think you would do first? Can you take a stab at it? I'll help you out with the first step. So the first step is the design brief. You're gathering the information. Remember we talked about that? So collect anything you can about the company that you're designing for. Create a design brief. Look at past work from the company. If they don't have past work, gather as much information as you can about the company and how they what their vision is for their actual new company. This is stuff that's really hard to get as a student here because these are fake projects. But take what was given to you. You can ask me any questions that I can help you out with, kind of fill in the information. But this is kind of the first steps, and it's a little different than when you're in the real world, but because this is all the information that's given to you. And sometimes that is the only information that's given to you in real life. This happens in real life too. So, but typically when you're working for someone, you have more information to pull off of. But gathering that information for the design brief. When is this due? Think about due dates. Think about timelines. That's all that goes into the design brief, not just, background information too. Step 2, what's the second step, you think? So we're gathering the information for the design brief. The second step would be research. Good, Anita. Yep, so get to know the target audience. What works, what doesn't work. Research competitors. So for the target audience, you might need to know who, is it more male? Is it more female? Is it mixed as far as gender? How much do they make? What's their typical salary range? Are they high, medium, low income? Are they educated? Maybe they're just high school degree. Maybe it's a variety of, degrees that these people have. What's their age range? As close as you can get, the range, that you can hone in on is the better. You could come up with some better ideas because you have that range of people. It's not too big of a range. You have a specific base to kind of talk to. And I'm talking about the whole brand itself. So you're speaking to that target audience. You need to know their personality traits. Where do they hang out on the weekends? If you could actually draw these people and show their personality, what would they say? What would they do? What do they do during the day? What are their characteristics? What do they wear? You know, as specific as that, you know, you need to kind of think about that. What works? What doesn't work? You know, what has worked? If this was a company that already kind of had a logo and they wanted to rebrand, what wasn't working? You need to know that so that you're not falling into that same, you know, problem or issue that they had. Um, Maybe it's an upcoming company and they don't have anything to base off of, but they know that they don't want to go a certain route, or maybe a competitor they want to kind of differentiate themselves from. You know, you need to know what works, what doesn't work. Research competitors again. That's really, really key because you can really find a lot about where you need to align your brand compared to your competitors. See, they might have some really non-desirable logos out there, or overall brand identity being put out there that you want to kind of not align yours to. And if it's really, really effective logo, mark, and brand, then you can be inspired by what you see, but then push yours further so it's different from, you know, align it the same, kind of know what works, what doesn't work, and then, you know, make yours different from theirs in regards to just being more memorable. So think about that. Go through each of your descriptions. Who is your customers? And this tells you a place, tells me a city. Doesn't quite tell me who my customers are, but I can kind of maybe get a general sense. What's the third step, you think? So we have design brief, we're gathering the information, we're doing the research. What would be the third step? So brainstorming, right? This is where you get the word lists out, the mind maps, adjective lists, free writing. There's just all kinds of really interesting things that you can do. Like I said, you can take a walk. Sometimes when people, I don't know about you guys, but when I take a shower, I think of some good ideas. I don't know if it's the water or what, but I mean, I do several different process steps with my brainstorming stage, but you know, try different things. If you've never tried a word list before, do it. If you never tried a mind map before, definitely do it. And you know, even free writing, you know, kind of write down some ideas on paper. Do some collaboration with people that might not be designers. You might come up with some really cool, interesting ideas with people who might not be kind of in the design world, that have a different perspective. So collaboration is also a great way to come up with some ideas. Here's a mind map example using like a keyword in the middle and then branching off in with other words that go with it. So you can do your, you know, you could do your adjective words here. And what's neat about mind maps is you're coming up with some ideas that you might not have thought about because you're branching off into different words that mean different things. So you can come up with some really interesting concepts and ideas once you kind of write out some of the mapped words here. And you can do some drawings and sketches with it. Some interesting things. So if you were doing Sweet Sensations Bakery, maybe you would put, you know, bakery in the middle, or one of the keywords. Let's see, like handmade, homemade, and then branch off into that, into those keywords. So maybe something you want to do. So some of the keywords would be, what would you think of if you thought of, oh, this shouldn't say Sadie Mae, Sweet Sensations Bakery. Some keywords that maybe are not these words. Could you come up with some after reading this description? Give some keywords. Whoops. maybe like custom, I see a word in there. Indulgent, affordable, flavorful, you know, words like that you can kind of think of. If you're kind of stuck on that, sometimes what I like to do is take some of those keywords, so handmade, fresh, unique, and rustic, and I'll type them in the thesaurus, and I'll get all kinds of different keywords that I can branch off of. I did that a lot when I do projects. I love word lists because what I can pull from that is typefaces that align with those adjectives, colors. I can, you know, be inspired by from some of those adjectives. So that's really, really helpful. So what's the fourth step? So we have gathering the information in the design brief, research, brainstorming. What would be the next step? So sketching. Do your thumbnail sketches and do a lot of them. Play around with you know, obviously you're not doing a specific typeface, but you can show if you want to do more sans serif and serif, decorative, how you want the name to be shifted around, maybe icons that you're playing around with, some simple icons. So the shape of it you're playing around with. So what's neat about sketches, and I know a lot of people are kind of against this because, oh, you know, they're afraid of they can't draw, and you don't have to know how to draw. I'm not good at illustrations. And the key is it's for you. This is for you. The client rarely sees the thumbnail sketches. This is just for you to get your ideas out before you're hindered by the computer. Because, you know, think about it. You're learning the programs like Illustrator and all that. You might not know all of the tools yet. And even if you do know, there might be something else that you weren't thinking about. So once you get on the computer, if you're thinking of an idea and you can't you know do it with a tool, then you're not going to come up with that idea because you're not going right to, you know, from this, you're not doing the sketches, you're just going right to the computer. So when you go right to the computer without doing sketches, you're hindered. You might not, you know, you might not have thought of that unique idea that you sketched out because you couldn't do it on the computer. So that's the great thing about sketches. And then once you do sketch it out and say, hey, you know, I really like this. How am I going to make this? Then you focus in on how you're going to make that. You kind of, you know, research into tools that you can create something similar to. But look at all these sketches. See how they're so different in regards to the look of them. So this is how your thumbnails should look like. They don't, you know, they're not all utilizing the same orientation. They're, you know, playing around with icons or playing around with shifting of the name, hierarchy, position of the name. Here's just as simple as playing with just icons that would go with a logo. Symbols. This would be pretty close to, you know, like a vintage boutique-y type of a logo. Playing around with the typeface and swirliness of the typeface. All right, so then we went from brainstorming to sketching, and then the fifth step would be computer comps. So once you kind of, you know, sketch out everything that you need to sketch, you're going to hone in on, and for instance, for this assignment, you're going to hone in on one concept that you think has the most potential, and you're going to go into Illustrator and start designing that concept out. And here's a really nice example of one logo that can be done in different ways, chill factor. So you can see the 1A and 1B. You can see the simple change in regards to the outline on the top of the snow cone from the black to nothing. Then 2A, you can see more horizontal logo. And then 2B, kind of a different look, different hierarchy of type, and different use of the V there. Here's another example of logos that, you know, all have the same name but different type treatment, color treatment, and maybe icon treatment. And you can come up with several different concepts, and this is what you need to be doing. This is part of the process. Another example of, you know, kind of honing in on a certain specific look. Here's slight variations of one. They're coming very close to what they want, but some shifting of color. All right, so once we're done with computer comps, the 6th step would be feedback. So you're going to get the feedback from me or your peers or your clients and or both. And then you're going to narrow it down. Or, you know, you could go back to the 1st step. If it's not working out, you might need to go back to do more research, you know, in the 2nd step, more brainstorming. So this is why I say it's not linear. The process may not be linear where you're going boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. You might be going back to 2 and skipping around depending on kind of where you are. So the 7th step would be the finalization step of your process. It would be the final step. Revise if needed after feedback, and then print or launch whatever is needed for your project. Oops. So that's a little review on, you know, the steps that you guys need to be going through for your process steps. Get really used to doing those steps because, you know, it definitely will make or break you as a designer. Great designers go through their design steps, their design process steps. If you don't, you might not be coming up with something meaningful and effective for your actual client. Okay, any questions about that? I'm going to go back to the assignment instructions, and we're going to go ahead and get started with setting this up. Assuming you don't have questions, I'm going to go forward right here. All right, so sketching out your thumbnails. I don't have this to show you, but definitely sketch some thumbnail sketches out, 20 of them. Start really kind of digging deep after, you know, doing your research. And then after you're done doing your sketches, which I don't have any to show, maybe I do have stuff to show you here, hold on. I taught this class a while back, and I have the actual clients have changed. So I might have an old example to show you here. I don't. Okay, so we're just gonna get started with this. I thought I had thumbnail sketches, but let's just say I did my thumbnail sketches. I don't have that process now for some reason. I don't know if I have it in my other folder. But thumbnail sketches, you know, like I said, you could scan it. If you have a scanner, you can take a picture of it with your phone, or if you have a Mac, they have a photo booth picture option that you can take a picture of your work and then save it as a PDF. So you can sketch that out, you know, pen and paper, number them, you know, 1 through 20, so that if I'm looking at your work or anybody else is, we can say, hey, number 17 is really what I think you should be going with. You know, it's not like a guessing game where I'm like, okay, the one in there next to this one, you know, it's a little easier to address there. So make sure you're numbering it. You're going to choose one promising concept from your thumbnail sketches and create 3 different black and white logo designs using Illustrator. Okay, so I'm going to do the Sweet Sensations Bakery, and I'm going to open up Illustrator. Let's just say I already created my thumbnails. I'm going to go File, New, kind of like a cooking show. Let's just say I went forward with this is the final piece. Okay, so 4 inches by 4 inches. Just make sure when you go into Illustrator and you do a File, New, that you're changing this to inches. If it's not inches, you're going to do 4 inches by 4 inches. And we want 3 artboards. So here's the artboards. Yours might be set to 1, but we want 3. Everything else looks good. The color mode is interesting. I don't know why this is set at CMYK, but we can change that for sure. Let's change it right now. Create. And again, if you want to change this artboard orientation, all you have to go to is Window and Artboards. And go on the fly out here, upper right-hand corner. Rearrange all artboards. So let's say you just want to do vertical, just choose this option, Arrange by Column. You could do the same thing horizontally too. It's up to you. You can keep it the same, it's up to you. All right, so from your sketches, you're gonna pick out some ideas here. You can, I would definitely suggest going to different font places online and, you know, type in, don't just use the ones on your computer, you just never know. There's keywords. Let me go back. There's keywords kind of keep in mind. So rustic, handmade, the other ones here. Rustic, handmade, fresh, unique, and rustic. So I'm going to type my type here. And then I'm going to do let me see here. Handwriting. I'll just click on this real quick just to see. I'm thinking handmade, but handwriting might not be. And then once you type your type in here, you can update it so you can actually see that typeface in that, or that name in that typeface. That one's actually a nice one, that second one up. And kind of check out what you think aligns with those words. That's kind of cute. That's kind of cute too. Let me go back to this one here. Download this one called Nella Sue. Let's try that one out. It's kind of thin now, so we'll see if that works. This is kind of cute too. It's kind of a more casual look. So this is Moonflower. Moonflower and Sweet Sensations. Okay, I'm just uploading this to my font suitcase. And when I'm ready to go back to my Illustrator, I just have to remember the names, Moonflower and Sweet Sensations. So this is one of them. Oops. Let me bring up my character palette in here. Oh, it was up here. Oh, Manti. All right, so kind of play around with what you're gonna do. You don't, have to focus on one font yet. Just gonna play around with it first. What was that first one that I downloaded? Let's see here. Oh, Nella Sue. Nella Sue. That's what I was forgetting. Okay. And this way could be Nella Sue. Okay. So, you can play around with a couple typefaces at first until you kind of know what you want. That's how I would do it. And then don't forget, this is in a lot of your, let me open up the PDF again. I'm going to point this out to you guys. A lot of the time students will take the whole company name and make it all one emphasis. But what you don't understand is you don't have to do that, and you shouldn't do that. So Sweet Sensations is really the key word there. You want that to be larger in type, and bakery is secondary word. It's more of like a tagline. So that can be less emphasized. That can be smaller. Red River is something you need to focus on as being the larger point size, the emphasis on that. All natural dog food would be the tagline. That needs to be smaller than Red River. Roasted bean, the roasted bean would be the name of that. That needs to be larger. Coffee company could be the tagline. So really keep that in mind because I think that's key on the overall hierarchy of your logo. So you can have it like this, but it's always good to maybe differentiate some of the words, especially if it's like a long name. So if it's a long name like this, breaking it up isn't a bad idea. Making this a little smaller, maybe a different typeface that aligns with this, and then giving it a different look. So let me show you real quick here. Maybe all capital letters.
I have a question. Are we supposed to be doing 20 different fonts with only on 3 different artboards?
You need to do one logo that looks the same on all 3. But at this point, you can play around with typefaces until you get to that point. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. I'm not quite there yet, yeah. By the instructions, it tells you to keep it the same, just play around with different maybe orientations or like icons that go with it. Okay, I'm just gonna choose, trying to find one that looks good with this here. I'm gonna spread this out just a little bit. I'm not sure if that's like the best. Still not happy with that. But anyway, pick a typeface that you think looks good with it. I'm very picky, so this is going to take me a while. Actually, that doesn't look too bad. It's a little different. And then say, kind of the question that you had, when we get to that point here, let's say you are doing, kind of playing around with the different typefaces, and you say, oh, I really like how this one's turning out rather than the other one. Say you like this one better or this one better, then what I would do is just copy this on the 3 artboards and then just kind of shift some stuff around. And what I mean by that is play around with, the name. You can even try something different where, certain words are bigger. You can come in with different lines in these. Play around with it. Just make sure that whatever you do, it it makes sense and unifies with the logo itself. So for instance, let's see this one.
After the lecture, can I talk to you for a few after class?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All
right. Okay. So like play around with the different orientations. You might even add some things in the letters. You kind of play around with it. Do like a shape in here. Just keep it black and white for now. I'm just kind of shifting things around here. You can even do something like, I'm going to keep it simple, a variety like this, where maybe you like maybe just how the S looks. We're just going to take that S, and we're going to keep it abstract. Kind of make it part of that circle, so it looks kind of cool. And then the name would go under here. You need to have, if you're going to do something like this, I would make it smaller so it balances out. Have to, this shouldn't be huge. It should just kind of balance out with the logo. This is actually really big now. So just kind of play around with it. Spread this out a little bit. Now you're playing with, you know, the negative and positive space in regards to this mark. But this is just kind of showing you, oh, there's a little space there. I shouldn't have taken out. Just some ideas of how you can do this, okay? Different options here. So let me, and now I don't have thumbnails to go off of, but you might be going off of some of your thumbnails for sure. And then you might want to apply different, oops. Different kind of effects to it. Play around with it. I'm just putting an outline on the background here. And then maybe this becomes different, like pattern-wise, you have all kinds of different borders. So borders is under window, brush libraries, borders. You have all kinds of different border options that you can apply if you want to, you know, mess around with that. I think these are probably not what I want, but let's see here. Window, brush libraries, borders, decorative, maybe. These are all colored though. You have to kind of be aware of that. If you put like a colored border on there, it might not, obviously it's not going to work. So you have to make sure you're just dealing with black and white right now. So we're going over some seals. You know, use that. There's also, here's the lines here. So used to doing it in Here's your brushes. Actually change this to that as well if you want to get just that inside. That would actually work better. And then this would have no line effect on it. Let's just get rid of that line. Here we go. So it's really kind of up to your research and what you end up like wanting to do for this, and what your thumbnails look like. It's going to basically start your process of your roughs. For this one, I'd probably go with maybe a variated line, just because the variated line is also in the logo itself. So I'm just choosing different lines that are like variated in width that would go with the font. So that's really, really important. You don't want to use something that doesn't quite go with the logo itself. You know, it'll stick out in a bad way. It's a little smaller. And then just kind of balance the logo on the page, the layout, so that they're all the same size and that they're centered. So, you know, pay attention to presentation is really important. You know, you put all this hard work into it, you want to present it nicely. You don't want to just haphazardly slap it on there. Make sure they're all pretty much the same size, ratio. Let me clean up my layout here. All right, so just very quickly, you know, I did this very quickly without thumbnail sketches, but I wanted to show you some different variations using maybe the same typeface. That'll give you a better understanding of what you need to do. Let me pull this down a little bit, it's been bugging me. So, that's what I wanted. You know, kind of play around with different ideas. Have fun with this. The key is to just come up with 3, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to only do 3. You know, typically designers go through a long process of experimentation. So make sure you're also experimenting with that. And then once you add color, it should definitely amplify it. You know, obviously you want to pick an appropriate color, but it should elevate it even more. Okay, and then name your assignment when you're done. Assignment 2, first and last name. And then don't forget, I'm going to say this is an AI file so that you can go back and change it, your native AI file. But don't forget, you're also going to be saving it out as a PDF and combining it with your 20 thumbnails. And the 20 thumbnails should all be just on like an 8.5 by 11. Shouldn't just be like 20 different pages. So when you're ready, just save this as a PDF, your 3 rough concepts. And then you're going to combine that PDF with your sketches. So let me share my desktop here real quick. Check your, you know, obviously look at your PDF here when you're done making it so that you know it looks good. Look through. And then you should have another page before this with your thumbnails. And that's what you're going to submit. Any questions about assignment 2? So the key to this is your process steps right now. Okay. You know, and don't forget to look at the criteria down here. It's always good to kind of understand, you know, what I'm kind of looking for. And don't forget, I actually am going to be grading your your actual final 3 logo marks, I will probably be picking the one that I think is the best to critique out of the 3. And then I will kind of checklist it off in the 5 characteristics of what makes a logo work, kind of what we talked about earlier today. So, you know, cross-check it. Oh, okay. Uh-oh. Anita, she said, no, but one of the designs we did was very similar. And that's fine. No problem, Anita. Some things could be a little similar. It might have just ruined a lot of your ideas, right? Oh, that's the bad thing about showing you examples too. Like I like showing student examples from the past. I can't show it to you now because obviously the projects have changed in this class since I last taught it. But the bad thing is sometimes it hinders your creativity because that's all you think about. But it's good to see what other people do too. It inspires you. Oh, okay. Well, I don't think it'll be like super, super close. I mean, it might look similar, but you know, different typeface possibly. If it's the same typeface, I would definitely change that. That makes sense. All right, no questions about what we just covered today. I'm gonna kind of start wrapping it up if you don't, so that we can hold off for tomorrow and go over other material. I think this is a good stopping point. And I know, Thomas, you said you wanted to talk to me, so we can talk after this. No other questions, though, besides that. We're all good with the discussion, what needs to be done for that. All right. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go 15 minutes early for this 4th of July. Thomas, stay here. We can chat. And if anybody else has any questions listening to the recording, let me know. Reach out to me. I am here, and I'll be here tomorrow at the same time for lecture 2. So if you want to bring in any work to look at during that time, that's perfect. We can give you some feedback. So there you go. Good luck. And I'll be seeing you guys hopefully tomorrow. All right, Thomas, can you hear me? You want to turn your mic on?
Yes, I am just kind of confused on as far as the 20 templates or thumbnails are concerned, because how are we are we like drawing those out and then submitting them?
Yep.
Okay. So that means I can base it. What I would have to do is so what that means is I would have to take a picture of all 20 with my phone, email them, and then how would I save them?
So what you're going to do is take a picture of all 20 on one page. You have them all on one page?
On one page, okay.
Do you have all 20 on one page, or did you not start yet?
I haven't started yet.
Okay, so what you might want to do is draw out 20 little squares with your, like a ruler or whatever, on an 8.5 by 11, and then go from there and sketch in those squares, you know, your ideas, and then you could take your camera and just take a picture of it, email it to yourself, and then after you email it, save it to your desktop, open it up. It might open up. Do you have a Mac?
I have a Apple.
Okay, so you'll double click on it. It'll be a JPEG when you send it to yourself, and then you'll just go, once you open it, it'll open up in preview, and then go to File, Save as PDF.
Okay.
You can actually just give it a .pdf at the end. You don't even have to open it. If you put that .pdf extension, it'll automatically make it a PDF.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I haven't started on any of my work yet because I was waiting for today's lecture so I can do my 50-word post, and then.
Okay. Yeah, I know we started a little late for some of the weeks, and that's the tough part. But hopefully you got a good idea today of what you need to do and start on it now.
Yeah, that was the only question I had because I didn't know if we were supposed to draw those out and then send them to you or what. So.
Yep. So just all on one page. Take a picture or scan it. You seem like you're going to take a picture of it, save it out as a
Yeah.
PDF, and then just combine it with your other 3 drops.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a great 4th of July, and I'll hopefully see you tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.